I'm old-ish. I have been playing video games for most of my life. More than 30 years now that I think about it, which seems an insane number. Anyway, my tastes have at least changed over time. But something did remain consistent through the years, and that was my firm belief that playing all of these games was good for me. This was originally based on some articles I'd read all the way back then. Articles saying things like surgeons who regularly played games had much better performance during surgery than their gameless colleagues, and lots of studies claiming better planning and memory skills associated with gaming habits. Digging into the question today, not only is this still the case, but even more positives in gaming have been found, but with one major caveat. It depends on the person. Most things are a lot more complex and nuanced than a few articles can answer. It's the same as something like eating. If you're a healthy young person and you eat a steak, that can be really good for you. Protein, iron, fats, and amino acids, lots of good nutrients. But what if you're overweight with cholesterol problems? Maybe then a big juicy steak isn't the best idea. Let's have a look at gaming to see where it can be really valuable for you and where you might need to be careful or make some adjustments. Firstly, let's start with the big one, mental health. There are a few components here. One is healthy escapism. If you're carrying some stressful burdens, it can be very mentally healthy to set those aside for a moment and just focus on a more ideal fantasy world through a game. Artificial rewards can also have a positive effect, resulting in mood improvements and similar benefits. That's a little taste of dopamine to get you approaching your real-life concerns with a usefully positive mindset. But the opposite can also be true. The strong temptation is to escape too much, to not face the real-life challenges and instead lose oneself in the game worlds, along with the temptation to ignore real-world rewards and rather go for the much easier-to-get virtual rewards. So, as a gamer, how do I get the good stuff and dodge the bad stuff? The best approach is to physically set your own limits. Set gaming time and alarms to break you out of the artificial world and deal with the real one. Also, set your own extra easy in-game goals and objectives to maximize the positive sense of reward from the game, so that you leave it in as good a mood as possible. Achieving an in-game goal is often a good mental position to end the gaming session and go and be real-life productive for a bit. But make sure you do the same for real-world progress. Gamifying the real world can be a super powerful tool for both personal progress and personal health. And ultimately, if it's at all possible and whatever your situation is, if you have any concerns at all, see a mental health professional. The next possible positive is financial. This is a tricky one, and it requires the big picture view and some self-discipline, so bear with me here. Gaming can be expensive. The cost for the platform of choice, the cost of games, the cost of an internet connection, all of that sort of thing can really add up. However, so can other forms of entertainment. Do you go to the pub every week? Do you go clubbing? Do you play something like golf? Do you regularly go to the movies? The amount of money you might be spending on other entertainments can be surprisingly large when calculated over the course of a month. Again, this can change from person to person, but I personally found that focusing on gaming as my entertainment, and for my social needs, as we'll look at later, actually saved me a lot of money. Obviously, this requires some self-awareness. If you have to have multiple or the latest platforms, if you feel compelled to buy the latest games as soon as they come out or as pre-orders, if you really want all the skins in your favorite game, obviously those can stack up the costs greatly. On the other hand, if your preferred platform has other uses for entertainment or work or other hobbies, and you're interested in indie games, or at least can wait until the price comes down on your AAA title, and you don't need the cosmetics, well then gaming can supply a lot of entertainment for surprisingly little cost over time. Think about the cost per hour. You can spend X amount for a movie ticket for a few hours enjoyment, or you can spend the same amount for a game that could give you many hours. Now, this is actually a group of benefits, possibly the benefits you're already aware of. There are a lot of studies that strongly suggest improvements in things like memory, reaction speed, and short and long-term planning. This makes sense. Train and exercise parts of your brain by using them, and it seems they're likely to improve. Again, this can be different for each person. If you already have a good memory, it's unlikely that your game time will improve it much more. Likewise, if you have a terrible memory, a little gaming might not have that much of an effect and really just add to the frustration. Generally, though, there is a lot of clinical evidence to demonstrate improvements, and it's certainly worth a shot. People might be surprised by just how much gaming can improve your general awareness of the world. Obviously, games with a strong historical or scientific or social theme can bring in a lot of that knowledge, but even games with more limited themes can teach you about critical thought processes and forward planning. Games engage your brain with natural learning and let you both develop and practice good thinking habits. However, games are like any other source of information. Game makers can simply be wrong or lie to push their own agendas. As always, practice good critical thinking habits. Check different sources before you decide something is true. I grew up within the general opinion that games were for outcast nerds, something that regular people simply didn't do. How could I enter society if I'm stuck behind a keyboard all the time, was the general consensus. Well, the first thing that cured me of that particular belief was that all of my friends at school were also gamers. This was the common element that brought us together. And then the era of social games appeared, and it was incredible. Couch co-op turned social gatherings into brilliant fun. LAN parties were a positively unique social experience. Games like MMOs meant that not only was I being social almost every day, it was often with people from other countries and cultures. My mind was broadened, and my social circle was large, which for an introverted nerd was quite unreal. It can be important to include a physical element, to meet up with some of the closer friends face-to-face on occasion, and of course there is still an element of gaming that is very isolating, which needs to be guarded against. But gaming is very far from the basement nerd image that it's had for a few decades. These days it's one of the top 5 forms of entertainment, battling with music and online streaming TV for people's attention. Now, for balance sake, we're going to look at some of the more unhealthy sides of gaming. The first is the question of exercise. Gaming can promote a very sedentary lifestyle, and this is usually one of the biggest issues pinpointed by studies on the subject. There are, of course, games with the physical element, like many games that came with the Wii console or the current swarm of VR games, but these often require more expensive hardware. They can be startlingly good fun, so the investment is definitely recommended, but failing that, the only real solution that I've managed to find is, once again, self-control. Again, through using the tools around us, like cell phone timers and reminders. Set a reminder for yourself to get up at least every hour and take a walk around, get some water, go outside, touch some grass. If you can, set up an exercise regime, a daily walk if you're in a safest area, or do some push-ups and sit-ups, or maybe join your local park run if there's one in the area. You should be doing all this sort of stuff anyway, gamer or not, for your long-term health. Gaming can be a threat here, as it is a strong temptation to stay seated rather than go and spend some energy, but then so can any other static form of entertainment. And now we get to the most serious threat of gaming. Games are good at affecting your dopamine levels, the hormones in your brain that manage rewards. As such, they can be addictive, potentially strongly so, to people who are susceptible. As before, the only real prevention or treatment is self-awareness and possibly engaging with a professional if you suspect there's a problem. At the very least, make sure gaming comes after your daily responsibilities and make sure that you get that sunshine and grass touching time. Just take care of yourself, whatever your preferred pastime is. Anyway, in summary, yes, gaming as a form of entertainment is good for you. I hope you like this answer and this video. If so, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Gaming is a massive part of my life, so I suspect it will feature a lot in the videos here. And leave your comments. Not only does that help me with YouTube, but it also provides interaction that I personally value greatly. And of course, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.